Good morning, Namibia. Welcome back to My Zone Online School. I'm Mr. Sean Diergaard, and my special friend is back today as well again. Before we can start with our lesson, my friend, let's sanitize. We spray on our hands. Kids at home, please use your sanitizer. We have our mask on, and then we see social distance. Let's spread out. Spread, spread, spread. Yes. Now we have our social distance. Today's topic is expanded notation and rounding off. Okay, kids, let's start with expanded notation. But before we can start with expanded notation, let's first see what is expanded notation. And I hope you have your booklets in front of you. And we look on page 22. Now let's read. What is expanded notation? Expanded notation is also known as decomposition of numbers or breaking up numbers when you're writing numbers in expanded notation. Here we write each digit according to its value. Remember with our first lesson, we talked about place value and we talked about value. Now, in decomposition or expanded notation of numbers, we write numbers according to their values. Now, if we go to the board, let's try the first two examples. Let's go to our chalkboard. Here we have 621. Now, this is the number. Now they want us to write that number in expanded notation. So we're going to break up the numbers according to their values. My friend, you have got your book in front of you. Are you ready? Let's start. The first number we're going to write in its value is the 6. Now we need to find out what is the value of the 6. Going back to place value, we know the 1 is a unit, the 2 is a 10, and the 6 is a 100. And according to the place value, that 6 value is 600. So we write 600 plus. What is the value of the 2? The 2 is in the place of the 10, and that means the value is 20. Plus the value of the 1. The 1 is a place of the units, and that gives us a value of 1. Now that's one way of writing expanded notation. Are we together, my friend? That's one way of writing expanded notation. 600 plus 20 plus 1. But there's also another way where we use multiplication. So let's see how that way works. We have 6 times 100. And we all know 6 times 100 equals 600. Plus 2 times 10, and we know 2 times 10 equals 20, plus 1 times 1, and 1 times 1 equals 1. So that is two ways how we can write numbers in expanded notation. Let's try our second example. 5,087. Are you following? 5,087. Let's write it. What is the first number? The first number is the 5. What is the value of the 5? According to our place value, we know the 5 is in the place of 1,000, and that gives it a value of 5,000. Plus, we don't have any hundreds, so we write 100. Then we go over to the 8. What is the value of the 8? The 8 is in the place of the 10, and that gives it a value of 80. Plus, what is the value of the 7? The value of the 7 is 7, because it's in the place of the 7. So 5,087 is written as 5,000 plus 0 to show that we've got no hundreds, plus 80 plus 7. Now let's try it with a multiplication. 5 times 1,000, that is equal to 5,000, plus, we just write 0 to indicate that there's no hundreds, plus 8 times 10, that is equal to 80, and then lastly we have 7 times 1, which is equal to 7. Now going back to our book, we will see there are lots more examples. Let's see number 3. 23,678. That is equal to 20,000 plus 3,000 plus 600 plus 700 plus 0 times 10, which is equal to 0, and 4 times 1, which is equal to 4. So this is where they give us the number and they want us to write it in expanded notation. Now let's see. They also say expressing numbers written in expanded notation as ordinary numbers. Now sometimes a number is already written in expanded notation form, and then we should write it as an ordinary number. When writing a number in expanded notation form as an ordinary number, we just add the different values together to give us one number. Now let's go into our books on page 23. Here we've got a few examples. Now we see here they already gave us the expanded notation part. Here they already broke up the numbers. 600 plus 50 plus 8. Now they just want it as one number. So what I do is I add 600 plus 50 plus 8, and that is equal to 658. Number 2, 7,000 plus 500 plus 60 plus 3. If we add it together, it will give us 7,563. My friend, are we still enjoying this lesson? Yes, she's enjoying it so much, and I hope you guys at home is also enjoying it. Let's go over to number 3. Now we see number 3 is written a little bit differently. Here it's 90 plus 80,000 plus 2 plus 7,000 plus 600. Now here we see when they wrote the expanded notation, they mixed it all up. They didn't write it according to the real values. They mixed up the values. So what we need to do first, we need to first arrange them in the correct order, and then we can add them together. So we're going to arrange them from the smallest number to the biggest. So our first big number is 80,000 plus 700 plus 600 plus 90 plus 2. And if we add it together, that gives me 87,692. Remember, we first arranged from the biggest value to the smallest value, and then we add it together. Number 4, 50 plus 9 plus 200 plus 60,000 plus 1,000. Remember, we first need to arrange them in the correct order, and then only we can add. So we add them from the biggest value to the smallest. So let's arrange. We will get 60,000 plus 1,000 plus 200 plus 50 plus 9. And if we add it together, that gives us 61,259. So remember, even although they mixed it up, firstly, just arrange it from the biggest value to the smallest value, and then we add it together. So that is what expanded notation is. Okay, kids, we're still busy on page 23 with rounding of numbers. Now, in rounding off, there's certain rules we need to follow. Let's look at the rules of rounding off. When we round off numbers, we look at two different place values. We look at the number that must be rounded off, and we look at the number just behind it. A number can only become bigger if the other number is 5 and more. If the other number is 4 or less, the rounding of number stays the same. Let's read that rule again. Me and my friend we're also reading. When we round off numbers, we look at two different place values. We look at the number that must be rounded off and the number just behind it. A number can only become bigger if the other number is 5 and more. If the number is 4 or less, the rounding of number stays the same. Now let's go over to rounding off to the nearest 10. Let's read. When rounding off to the nearest 10, we focus on the tens and the units. Why do we focus on the tens? Because the 10 is the one that will change. If the units are less than 5, the tens will stay the same. If the units are 5 or more, then the tens will become 1 bigger. So when we round off to the nearest 10, we find the 10, the number in the 10th place. That is the number that will either change or become 1 bigger. And we focus on the units. If the units is 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, the 10 will become 1 bigger. If the units are 4, 3, 2, 1, then the 10 will stay the same. Now let's look at the example. Rounding off to the nearest 10. I hope you still have your books in front of you. And then we read 58 rounded off to the nearest 10. Here we look at the units. The units is more than 5, so that allows the 10 to become 1 bigger. So if we go to our example, we will say our unit is an 8. 8 is bigger than 5, and that allows the 5 to become 6, and 58 rounded off to the nearest 10 becomes 60. Example 2. 5,684 rounded off to the nearest 10. We first need to find the number in the 10th place, that is the 8. So we will focus on the 8 and we will focus on the 4. Then we read in brackets, the unit is less than 5, so the 10 stays the same, meaning the unit cannot change the 8. So the 8 will stay the same, and 5,684 rounded off to the nearest 10 becomes 5,680. Now we turn to page 24 of our book. My friend is also turning her page. Rounding off to the nearest 100. Let's read. When rounding off to the nearest 100, we focus on the hundreds and the tens. If the tens are less than 5, the hundreds will stay the same. If the tens are 5 or more, the hundreds will become 1 bigger. Let's see our examples. Rounding off to the nearest 100. 183 rounded off to the nearest 100. We find the 100, that is the number that will either become 1 bigger or stay the same. And we look at the 10. If the 10 is 5 and more, the 100 will become 1 bigger. So let's see. There they say, the 10s are more than 5, so that means the 100 becomes 1 bigger. So the 10 is an 8, which is more than 5, meaning that will change the 100, and the 100 becomes 2. So 183 is rounded off to the nearest 200. The second example, 45,740. Rounded off to the nearest 100. Guys and girls, I hope we are still together. We find the number in the place of the 10 and the number in the place of the 100. Then we read, the 10 is less than 5, so the 100 stays the same. Our 10 is a 4, meaning it cannot change the 7. And 45,740 is rounded off to 45,700. Rounding off to the nearest 1,000. When we round off to the nearest 1,000, here we focus on the thousands and the hundreds. Now let's look at our first example. Rounding off to the nearest 1,000. 5,390. Let's read what it says in our brackets. The hundreds are less than 5, so the 1,000 stays the same. If we look at our example, we see our 100 is a 3, so it cannot change our 1,000. Our 1,000 stays the same, and that is rounded off to the nearest 5,000. 56,679, rounded off to the nearest 1,000. The hundreds are more than 5, that means the thousands becomes 1 bigger. Our 100 is a 6, and that means it can change our 1,000, and 56,679 rounded off to the nearest 1,000 becomes 57,000. And lastly, we have rounding off to the nearest 10,000. When we round off to the nearest 10,000, we focus on the 10,000 and the thousands. For example, rounding off to the nearest 10,000, 12,800 rounded off to the nearest 10,000. Let's read. The thousands are less than 5, so the 10,000 stays the same. My 1,000 is a 2. Are we together, my friend? We see the 1,000 is a 2, and that cannot change the 10,000. The 10,000 stays the same, and 12,800 rounded off to the nearest 10,000 becomes 10,000. Number 2, quite a big number. 78,978 rounded off to the nearest 10,000. Let's read what we said in brackets. The thousands are more than 5, so the 10,000s become 1 bigger. We find our 1,000, we see it is an 8, that is more than 5, and that can change my 10,000. So my 10,000 becomes 1 bigger, and when I round it off, then it becomes 80,000. Now, boys and girls, if we turn to page 25 of our book, we will see there's a really nice activity for you guys to do. The activity is based on expanded notation and rounding off. Number 1, write the number 3,582 in any form of expanded notation. Remember, we did 2 forms. Number 2, write the number 89,742 in any form of expanded notation. Number 3, write the expanded notation 700 plus 60 plus 5 as an ordinary number. Number 4, write the expanded notation below as an ordinary number. 6 times 1,000, 7 times 10, 5 times 10,000, 8 times 1,000, and 4 times 1. Then we have rounding off. Round off 52 to the nearest 10. Round off 8,574 to the nearest 100. Round off 9,200 to the nearest 1,000. And round off 29,337 to the nearest 10,000. Boys and girls, the memo is on the next page, but first try to do it on your own before you look at your answers. Now, this has brought us to the end of our lesson. So now me and my friend, we will sanitize again. And before we say goodbye to you, my friend, let's stand. Remember social distancing. We have our sanitizers. We spray it on our hands. I hope you also have got your sanitizers. We rub it in nicely. And once again, all Namibian kids, please stay safe, wear your mask, sanitize, and me and my friend, we will see you guys soon again. Goodbye.
Hi everyone, I'm Joshi. And make sure to always make a helicopter circle, stretching your arms out and spinning around like me. And make sure you're not touching anyone while doing this. Goodbye!
Prevention is important. Help prevent the spread of illness and keep yourself and others well. Hand washing is one of the most effective ways of preventing the spread of germs. Wash your hands regularly with soap and hot water, scrubbing your hands thoroughly for at least 20 seconds. Hand sanitizers can be used but are not recommended as a substitute for hand washing. Use sanitizers in addition to hand washing or in a situation where soap and water are not available. To avoid spreading germs, limit sharing of personal items such as utensils, cups, and dishes. Your skin acts as a barrier to germs, but your eyes, nose, and mouth are more vulnerable. Wash your hands thoroughly before touching your face, eating, or drinking. Avoid physical contact with others, including handshakes, fist bumps, high fives, hugs, and kisses. Social distancing is deliberately increasing the physical space between people to avoid spreading germs. While regulations may vary by country or area, the best guideline for social distancing is to maintain a distance of 6 feet from others. Germs can travel through the air from one person to another. If you sneeze or cough, do so into a tissue or the inside of your elbow to prevent the spread of germs. Avoid contact with ill individuals and insist they isolate themselves until they have recovered and are symptom-free. Clean and sanitize frequently touched common surfaces and high-traffic areas in your home and workplace several times a day. Share these guidelines with others and help prevent the spread of illness and maintain a healthy environment. An ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure.
Many countries that have passed their first peak of COVID-19 are experiencing a second rise in cases. Is this a second wave of infections, and could even more waves lie ahead? Previous pandemics might give us a clue. The 1918 Spanish flu was the most deadly pandemic in modern history. It killed at least 50 million people. Its second wave was the most deadly by far, killing millions more than the first and third. More recent outbreaks, such as SARS and swine flu, have also had 2 or more waves, so it looks like the COVID-19 pandemic could have several too. The World Health Organization has warned about the dangers of a deadly resurgence. Many countries and places have seen infections accelerate after bringing their first waves under control. These rises aren't necessarily new waves. They could be spikes. Spikes are rapid rises in cases that aren't sustained, whereas waves happen over longer periods and often contain several spikes or peaks. Second waves only take place after a first wave has retreated. Many scientists believe more waves are inevitable and think a worse one could hit during autumn or winter. Some other coronaviruses spread faster when the weather is cold. If this is the case with COVID-19, it would put health systems under huge pressure. Many people are still vulnerable, and immunity to the virus might only last a few months for those who recover. It's also possible that mutations to the virus could lead to new waves. Hundreds of mutations have been found, and some could potentially make the pandemic more severe. One mutation may have already improved the ability of the virus to bind its spike proteins to human cells. This strain of the virus appears to unlock cells more easily and has become dominant around the world. It's unknown how the virus will continue to change, but further mutations could make it even more dangerous and harder to control. A reliable vaccine would help solve many of these problems, but it may take many months or even years to find one. Until then, we all need to make long-term lifestyle changes to protect ourselves from further waves. How are you learning to live in a world with COVID-19?
Hi beautiful souls, this is Nikita Winkler and I am here to share easy tools for stretching that you can do just about anywhere. This is a demonstration, so what's most important is that you take enough time that your body requires to release the amount of tension that you have. So let's get started. In this session, we will do neck stretches. I'm going to show you rotations, full rotations, you can do half rotations, and we're going to add a bit of tapping just to release the tension even more. Alternatively, give yourself a massage. If you have a lot of tension, go for the massage first before you do anything, just to warm the muscles, and let's get going. Full rotation. Releasing at every angle of this rotation. And I'm going to reverse, go the other side. All right, we'll do a half rotation. And then I'm going to just stop for a static stretch. Take the arm over the head, relax the shoulders. Drop the other arm, or alternatively, to deepen the stretch, take it right behind. Hold and release. Change to the other side, arm over the head, release the shoulder, let the weight of the arm pull you into the stretch. If you want to go deeper, take the arm around, relax the arm at the back, and release. One more to the front, interlace the fingers to the back of the head, lean the elbows forward, and release. If you're feeling a lot more tension, either go for the massage or just do some rotations. And that's it for now. Thank you for joining me. Happy stretching, and don't forget to breathe.